Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm here for the stay-at-home reading tag slash my stay-at-home Reading Rush TBR. They're doing like a little mini version of the Reading Rush right now just because everybody's stuck at home. Not me, I'm still working, but I would like to partake anyway. So I'm gonna do the little tag questions first, and then the TBR is technically the last tag question, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But this, I'm hoping to get this uploaded the day before or on the first day of it. I think it's only running from the 16th to the 19th. It's only like a weekend thing, and I work over the weekend, so we'll see how this goes. But let's just get into the questions. So question number one is, how is your reading going while staying home? I am falling into the category much like the rest of the world seems to be. Some people are doing really great right now and taking all this time to read everything on their TBR, and then there's people like me where they are really struggling to focus on literally anything. And this is like the first time in years for me that I haven't been able to focus on reading. I'm steadily getting back into it. As I'm filming this, we have technically been in like quarantine, or all of this has kind of been going on for over a month at this point. The first 2 to 3 weeks were rough though. I literally couldn't focus on anything, like movies, shows, books, literally nothing would like hold my attention because of everything going on. And I think it was also in part to the fact that I was still working and everybody at work was talking about it constantly, and then we were constantly watching the news at home, so it was a lot. And just this week alone is when I finally started reading again, so we're getting better. It was rough, but we're getting there. And the next question is, what have you been reading at home? And like I said, this past week I've been getting into it, and I've been reading a lot of heavy stuff, which is not a lot of people's go-to. A lot of people are reading like comfort reads, which is what I started out with. I was rereading stuff, and I was reading things that were just like light and fluffy and easy to digest. And now that my focus is starting to come back, I'm actually reading a lot of really dark contemporary stuff, whether that's like thrillers or just like really heavy subject matter stuff. And I think, well, I'm a really dark person to begin with, so that's not really shocking to anybody. I read that stuff regularly, but I think rationalizing it, it's kind of my brain being like, here, let's read some stuff that's like even more messed up than the current state of the world so that things look better in the real world. At least that's what I'm trying to tell myself, but I've been reading some heavy stuff recently. Which will lead me into the next question, which is, what is the best book you've read during isolation? And as of last night, I just finished reading My Dark Vanessa. It was, okay, that's not a book that I'm gonna recommend to the masses because that one was a doozy, but it was one of the best written books that I've read in so long. Like, it's dark, there's literally every trigger warning possible in that book, like it's heavy, but it was done so well. Like, the writing was just, it was so good. So that's the level of dark that I'm on right now. Next question is, what is your favorite feel-good book? And for me, it's always kind of like my favorites that I can always go back to and reread. So like Akamath and Akawar, I will always be able to go back, and those just like are my comfort reads. That going back to Prithian and to Valaris is just like, it's like going home for me. So those, The Simple Wild, if I'm looking for more contemporary stuff, that is just such a good book. Same with Fangirl, that's another favorite of mine that I can reread over and over again. So those I guess. Next question is, what book do you wish you could buy or borrow from the library if it's not available? A lot, I guess. I have kind of been buying books recently, not many. I was saving up a lot of money to go to a Polycon, and when that got canceled, I was just like, I must purchase something. So I purchased a couple books based off of that. The new Jennifer L. Armentrout book, though, From Blood and Ashes, I have that ordered, so I wish that I could have that right now. Does that count? It's on its way to me, but I don't know when it's gonna get here. Everything has been, like, delayed, so that one, even though I technically already bought it, it's on the way. Who is an author that you want to shout out at this time? Normally my go-to is Kennedy Ryan. I know you guys are sick of me talking about her at this point, but I'm gonna go back to that last book. Jennifer L. Armentrout is the author who puts on ApollyCon, which is, in case you guys didn't know, a huge indie romance convention that is an entire weekend long. It's a huge signing, like 150 authors attend, and she made the decision to cancel it this year because of everything. Well, she made the decision prior to it being required to cancel everything, and I just want to shout her out for how gracefully she's handled the entire situation, and I can't even imagine how stressed and upset she is over the whole thing, because she funds a lot of that event out of her pocket, so I can't imagine the canceling process and how horrible that was for her. But she has been incredibly gracious, and she hosted an entire virtual event where we got to view live streams of a lot of the authors that were attending and do giveaways, and she just was like so on point with like handling the situation. So I want to shout her out. Even if you're not a fan of her books, I think she is an awesome person. She also has goats and alpacas, so I mean, what's not to like? And moving on to the TBR for this little mini weekend reading rush. I believe there are only 4 prompts. Yeah, 4 prompts. So let's get into those. This is gonna be kind of brief for me because like I said, I am working this weekend, but I want to try and read something, and I delved into my backlist for this on purpose because I feel like reading books that were interesting to me a while ago is kind of the stuff that's appealing to me right now, just for like nostalgia's sake. I don't know why. So the first challenge is to read a book with a house on the cover. And I might be stretching it with this, but I'm sure one of these buildings is a house. It's a cityscape. Somebody lives in one of these buildings. But this is 1 + 1 = Blue by M.J. Auk. And this, I believe, is a middle grade. I want to say middle grade. The font is very large, and I'm pretty sure the main characters are like young teens, if not tweens. But it follows 2 characters who have synesthesia, which is a buzzword for me. I will read literally any book about that. And this is somewhat short. Like I said, I believe it's middle grade and the font is fairly large, so I think this will be good for a readathon. It's also been sitting on my shelf for literally years, so readathons are when I try and pull those off the shelf finally. So we've got this. The next challenge is to read a book in the same room the whole time, which should be very easy for everybody because everybody's stuck at home. And for this, I'm gonna leave it somewhat open considering that I pretty much always read in my living room, so any of these books that I'm talking about will most likely be read in that living room. So that one I'm leaving open. The next challenge is to read a book set somewhere you wish you could go. And I'm stretching this because I don't actually know if this is like set anywhere, but I want to go to the world outside. The world outside. I'm pointing to my window. The outside of my house and outside of my job. That's where I want to be. Literally anywhere else in the world. This is Starboard Murphy and the World Outside by Karen Finney-Frock, and this is another book that has been sitting on my shelf for years, and I've almost unhauled it multiple times, but every time I go to unhaul it, I read the synopsis and I'm like, no, I'm gonna read this. So maybe this is the time, and I feel like this is somewhat fitting. This is a YA book about a girl who lives in a commune in the woods of Washington State. So, I mean, it's kind of isolating also, so it's a little fitting for the tone. But I believe it follows her as she gets her calling to be a waitress at a restaurant in Seattle. So she's leaving her little commune for the first time and experiencing the world outside. It sounds good. I love books. If you guys watched my April releases video, you know that that's a thing that's always interesting to me. Anything that has to deal with like weird communes and cults or like isolating communities is always interesting to me, so I feel like I would love to visit the world outside along with Starboard Murphy. I feel like I'll be able to relate to her so hard right now. The last challenge is to read a book that will make you smile, and for this, I'm going with the audiobook of Tweet Cute, just because my hold just came in at my library for the audiobook of this, and I'm definitely gonna need an audiobook this weekend to listen to while I'm at work, and from what I've heard, this is adorable. It's exactly what I'm looking for. It's fluffy, contemporary romance. I know Chelsea, the other Chelsea from Chelsea Darling Reads, loves this book, so I feel like it's just gonna be a really good feel-good, smiley type of story. So, those are the books that I'm planning on reading. Those are my thoughts on the whole situation and reading in general right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in my next one.